Hi, my name is Callie, and this is a video showcasing a weekend trip my boyfriend and I did to Columbus, Ohio. So keep watching to see what fun things we got up to and what we did during our time there. So we boarded the plane on Friday evening, right after work time. We actually took Breeze Airlines, which if you're coming from Raleigh has a pretty good deal for direct flights to Columbus, Ohio. And then once we landed, we took an Uber to our hotel. We got checked in, got settled, and then we decided to walk around and walk to dinner. For dinner, we went to this restaurant called Pierogi Mountain. I had seen it online and it looked pretty good. We really enjoyed the food. Of course, we got pierogies, and then I also got a traditional Polish stew. And then from there, we decided to find a brewery. So we came across the Holy Trinity Brewing Company, and it turned out to be a really great, fun find. They had some really good beers and a lot of fun decor. But honestly, the best part of this whole brewery was they have brewery cats. You can see one on the stool there. There's another one in the background. Just a fun element for a brewery. And then we played some games and stuff while we drank our beers, and it made for a really fun evening. And that's kind of how we wrapped up our first night in Columbus. You can see I took a selfie with the brewery cats, and I had a horrible selection of letters for Scrabble. And then here's another building we came across as we walked back to our hotel, the Dispatch, Ohio newspaper building, which had this really cool sign on top of it. So the next day we were up bright and early. We started walking. We came across randomly this machine on the street. Turns out you can put in a couple quarters, you get an egg, and inside of the egg is some local artist's work, which is really cool. And I believe this is a seasonal thing that they put out during the summertime. And then we went to Morning Ritual for breakfast to get some coffee and some breakfast food. And then once we finished breakfast, we walked over to the Ohio State House. This is a very historic building, and it's home to the Ohio House of Representatives and the Senate. At first, we walked around the outside of it a bit. There's some really cool statues and stuff outside, but honestly, one of the reasons we walked around the building was we couldn't figure out which door to go into, because there's a very specific door if you're going to the building on Saturday that you have to enter through. We thought we found the door, and then this was, in fact, not the door. We did eventually find the door, and we got in. You have to go through security, but it's free to enter. And then right as you enter, they have this really cool layout on the ground of all the counties in Ohio. And each county is made out of different types of stone that can be found around Columbus, which I thought was a pretty cool element. We also signed the guest book when we came in, and funny enough, there was another couple who was also from Raleigh, North Carolina, who had been there the day before us, which was crazy coincidence because we were just here on a random weekend, no particular reason. So that was kind of funny to see. And then you just kind of walk through this exhibits. They have a couple of different artifacts and things on display, and a couple of different historical facts and information about the building, about Columbus itself, and some of the relevant history that happened around Columbus. And in general, it's just some cool historical elements to see and gives you a good idea of the history in Columbus and how it came to be the capital. They also have this very cool rotunda that reminded me of the Capitol in Washington, D.C. This thing is massive. The camera does not do it justice. It's very pretty. I highly recommend seeing this place. And they also have these massive pieces of art on the wall. And another fun fact about Ohio was I was a big 4-H'er in high school. I did a lot of stuff in 4-H, and 4-H was actually founded by A.B. Graham in Ohio. I, of course, had to take a picture with this plaque commemorating that and recognizing A.B. Graham for his work in 4-H and founding it. And then after we finished up at the State House, we walked over to a pizza place, and we had some very good pizza for lunch. And then from there, we went over the river, and we walked across the bridge here to get onto the other side of the river. And once we got to the other side, there's honestly not much past this main building, but you'll see the Kozai Museum. This is a children's science museum. And one of the cool things that Columbus does along the Scioto Riverside is they have 3 different deer statues, and you could find them in the Scioto Mile is what it's called. Here we found one watching an imaginary show, and they're pretty entertaining statues, to be honest. Some of them are posed in funny ways. Very close by, you can find the second statue, which I, of course, had to pose next to because what a pose this one is striking. I did not put those sunglasses on that deer. Those were just left there, so makes it even better, though, in my opinion, and had to get the angle just right, you know. And then we found this ping pong table in the middle of the park, which was kind of fun. The paddles and ball were just there, so we just started playing a little bit. Had a couple rounds of ping pong. I kind of suck at ping pong, but that's okay. I still enjoyed it. And then we walked back across the river and back into downtown Columbus. So at this point, the weather took a bit of a turn. Luckily, we were prepared. We did have some umbrellas, but we got a little bit wet. And we decided to take a break from the rain and go into a record store, and we checked out some records for a little bit. And then from there, we walked to the Kelton House, which is about a 15-20 minute walk from the riverside. The Kelton House is a old historic house in Columbus that you can tour. It was owned by a family and then donated after the last family member passed away. And I highly suggest doing this. We did get there a little bit premature. They have set times for tours and you can only look through the house with a guided tour. So just be aware, make sure you look up the times before you come because they are closed on certain days and at certain times. We got there a little bit too early. We had to wait a minute. Other than that, as long as you knock on the door, somebody will come and greet you. And then our tour started. Our tour guide here was dressed in period clothing, which was really fun. And she was very knowledgeable about the history of the house and the people who lived in the house and the family who owned it. She kind of walked us through the whole family tree. And then we got to walk through the house. And a lot of the stuff in the house the family did own. Some of the furniture is original. Here's portraits of the couple who owned the house mainly. And it was just cool. She walked us through all the history, all the children, what happened to them, and kind of how that family influenced Columbus. We also got to see the grand dining room, which was really cool. It was set up how it would have been set up during its prime time. I did think the weirdest element of this room was a wreath made entirely out of human hair. They were not sure whose hair it was, but they do know it was human hair, so that was kind of odd. But that's this wreath. And then they also had a working Regina phone, which they played for us, so that was pretty cool. They played a whole song on it and let it run. And this was my first time ever hearing one of these as well. Once the tour ended, we were free to walk around and revisit any of the rooms that we wanted to. Afterwards, we went out into the garden out back. You can tour that as well. The tour did cost a fee, but it was very reasonable. I think it was $5 to $10 a person, so great tour for what it cost. Then we made a quick stop for dinner at a place called Pecan Pennies, where I got a build your own mac and cheese dish. Then we headed over to the Ohio Theater, because they were running a summer movie series and we bought some tickets to watch a Star Wars movie in the theater. This theater is really cool. I believe it's one of the oldest in Columbus. We chose to sit in the balcony. Great view of the architecture and the stage down below. Another cool thing about this theater is that they have what's called a Robert Morton organ. This is a type of theater organ, and this one in particular is one of the last ones in the world that's still in its original home. And I believe this organ itself is over 100 years old. And it was recently fixed up, and they had an organist come out and play it for us for about 15 minutes before the film start. And then once the movie ended, we decided to walk back across the river, this time on a different bridge though. And we got a beautiful view of the Columbus skyline, and it was all lit up at night. And we also spotted another deer here. You can see he has a great view of the city line here. But our main reason for going across the bridge to the other side again was to visit Land Grant Brewing. And we got a couple of drinks there, hung out for a while. We were pretty tired by the end of the day, so we headed back to our hotel and we called it a night. The next morning we got up and we went and got coffee at Parabola Cafe. I really liked the atmosphere inside. It also had a huge line out the door. However, the prices were very high. This is one of the most expensive coffees I've ever bought, and it was not worth the cost in my opinion. Maybe it was a bad day. That's just kind of what I thought about the coffee on that day. And then we walked around for a while, but eventually we got hungry again, so we went to a market to get lunch. So this was kind of like a food hall situation. It's called the North Market downtown, and it's located in a 148-year-old public market building. So this building has been some type of market for over 100 years. Inside this market, there are a ton of independent shops and restaurants. And there also is a huge variety of different foods. So there was some Cuban food, there was some African origin food, Mexican food, Italian, you name it. It was in this small building, which was really cool. We chose to get pasta, and so we did a build your own pasta place. And then we went and sat upstairs. There's a bunch of seating upstairs, and it's a really cool view because you can look right down on top of all the businesses. And from there, we visited another record store. Then we made our way to the Ohio State University campus, where there we went to what's called the Billy Ireland Cartoon Library and Museum. This is located on campus. It's a free to visit exhibit, and they have a ton of archived cartoons and historical information on how cartoons came to be and what they're like today. And they also feature some rotating exhibits. Then we walked around campus a little bit more. We went to the student union. Here you can take your picture like we did with the famous Bucky the Buckeye. And we also went into the library. And we had worked up an appetite, so it was time for dinner. So we had Raising Cane's chicken for dinner. This was my first time ever eating Raising Cane's. It is a chain, but honestly, it was a pretty good chicken. It's one of the better chicken fingers I've ever had before. So I was, as you can see, pretty excited about this chicken. And then we also visited another brewery after this. We went to Seventh Son Brewing Company. It was about a 5 to 10 minute walk away from this Raising Cane's located on campus. And then finally, we of course had to get a sweet treat after dinner, so we went to Jenny's Ice Cream and got some ice cream. The cool thing about Jenny's is that it was founded in Columbus, Ohio in 2002, and they have over 19 ice cream flavors. If you ever see this brand, because it is nationwide now, no, it was founded in Columbus. And from there, our trip was pretty much over for the weekend. My boyfriend actually headed back to Raleigh, North Carolina, while I stayed for the rest of the week. I had a conference for work, was in the conference for the next week or so, did different things. Actually presented at the conference a poster, which was really cool. My first time presenting anything in a scientific manner. And then as part of the conference, they also took us on a field trip outside of Columbus. And they took us out to Hocking Hill State Park, and we did a big hike together, which was really cool. The hike went through this gorge. I don't know if it had a particular name. There was just a bunch of trails that kind of branched off this main trail, but overall pretty cool. This park is pretty small in general, so I don't think it'd be that hard to figure out which trail it was. Beautiful scenery all throughout the trail though. And you're just kind of winding your way through this gorge, and then there was this plaque talking about this hole that falls through the creek. Supposedly it goes all the way to Hades and to hell. That was some unique mythology there. Another view of the gorge. There's just some different fun elements throughout this hike. There's stairs. There's another part of the hike where you actually go down under this rock and you kind of go through this cave area. Here's the entrance to that cave. And then you come out the other side. Here's us going into the little cave under the rock. And then you just pop right back out on the other side. There's also a couple of small waterfalls, nothing crazy, nothing huge, but you know, some cute little waterfalls here and there. They're about, 8 to 10 feet tall. And then we closed out the conference with a dance on the last night. And then after the dance, we went to this fun dive bar called Mike's Grill. One of the diviest dive bars I've ever been to. Warning, if you go to the bathroom, at least the women's did not lock, so there was that. They also sold these fun cans of beer that had corn. They were Busch Light with corn packaging, which I thought was fun. I'd never seen that before. Apparently it's a Midwest branding thing. Shout out to Mikey's Late Night Slice. We ate here a couple different times throughout the conference. Awesome pizza. Very delicious. And then I was headed back to Raleigh, North Carolina myself. We had a great time in Columbus. I know a lot of people don't really talk about going to Columbus. It gets a bit of hate, but I really enjoyed our time. I would recommend it for a short weekend trip. If you're just looking for a fun place to go that's kind of different from other places. And thanks for watching.